Good afternoon, friends. I want to talk to you a little bit about the way in which you speak to your clients and your customers, and if you're a yoga teacher or any kind of teacher, really, your students, and the sort of marketing copy that you are writing, the newsletters that you're writing, the content on your emails and your website. And I'm going to do this under the banner of what a teacher of mine, Kelly Deals, calls speak client, not coach. And what she means by that is speak to your audience in a language that they understand and that they would use. And I was thinking about this recently in the context of Sex and the City. I did a great writing class written by a woman, hosted by a woman called Cara Olwill. I hope I've got her name right. She's a brilliant writing coach, and it was based on Sex and the City and Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City, and she was talking about why Carrie Bradshaw, the lead character in Sex and the City, has such a great it created such a like a whole genre, basically. You know, she was such a great character, and it's because she speaks to us like we're girlfriends. You know, we feel that we are invited into Sex and the City as if we were part of the cast, as if we were a friend of hers that she was just kind of calling up and including in her conversation. And it's, you know, it's very cleverly done with the sort of on-camera, off-camera audio overlay type thing. But this is really what we want to be doing in our marketing. We want to be speaking to our clients and our customers in the same way that we speak to other people in our lives, and sort of drop this overly formal way of being that we sometimes can have in our marketing. So an example is, I was working with a woman today, and she had written in her copy, she had written, you know, if you want to move from consumerism to community, right? Which there's nothing wrong with that. But I said to her, can we come up with some more specific examples? Like, can we make this more relatable? And what we landed on was, if you want to move from buying shit on Temu that you don't really need to growing your own local veggie patch, or to becoming part of your local community garden. And can you feel the difference in that? Like, we're still talking about the same thing. We're talking about needless consumerism and then becoming part of community initiatives, but we're doing it with real life examples that actually resonate for people, that have real meaning. Another way that I've heard this spoken about by the brilliant Rebecca Ives, the content queen, and I'm crediting lots of different teachers here today and influencers, and I really want to say something about this too, just as a tangent. I feel very strongly that it's really important that we acknowledge our teachers and the influencers that have been formative in the work that we're doing. As someone who has practiced yoga for nearly 30 years and been part of different yoga schools and yoga lineages for that amount of time, I know how important lineage is and how much it matters that we reference our teachers. You will hear me again and again and again in yoga world talking about my teacher Sharon Gannon, my teacher David Life, this teacher who said this. As an author and a writer, I'm constantly crediting my sources. I read this here, this author said that, this writer said this. I really feel that it's very important that we do that, that we connect the dots between our thinking and the thinking of other people that have come before us, and that we acknowledge lineage and we acknowledge and credit those who've been important and influential for us. So yeah, I want to bring that through into the business world as well, and say that as women, we don't need to be scared of competition. I don't need to sit here and not mention people who've influenced me or taught me for fear that you might go off and follow them and stop following me. There's enough space for all of us, and we can be in collaboration rather than in constant competition. So yeah, that's another piece here that I think is relevant and important. But anyway, Rebecca Ives, who's a brilliant content teacher, I was listening to a recording of a lecture that she gave, and she spoke about the difference between, in your copywriting and in your sales copy, saying something like a piece of fruit versus the specificity of saying a banana. Or, you know, the difference between saying a flower versus the specificity of saying a geranium. So when we get more specific, and I gave another example this morning when I was teaching, I said, you know, instead of saying she got up and she got dressed, what if you were to say she got up and she put on the kimono that she bought last year in Japan? It just creates a completely different visual for the reader, and it brings people into our world. And so I want you to think about this when you're writing, in a way that you're thinking about wanting to sell something, you're thinking about customers or consumers or people that are going to come into your yoga class or whatever it might be. But how can you actually paint the picture? How can you make it real? How can you name a banana instead of naming a piece of fruit, or say shit that we buy on Temu instead of saying consumerism, and really speak the same language as your clients rather than this kind of generic coaching language? And that's another thing I want to say. Wherever you see words being repeated a lot, words like somatic, nervous system, embodiment, empowerment, these kind of cliche women's wellness words, I really want to encourage you to break them down and tell me what you're talking about. Let's stop using these overused words that get used again and again and again. Even things like breathwork. Like, breathwork's become such a sort of catch-all umbrella term now. When you say breathwork, what do you mean? Tell me, explain it to me. I'm so much more likely to be excited by what you're offering if you actually tell me like you would tell a girlfriend. Tell me like you would tell, someone who asked you a question in the street who was interested in this thing. Explain it to me, because that's where you're gonna pique my interest. And yeah, let's stop relying on these kind of cliched words. Which brings me to my last point today that I want to share with you, which is about ChatGPT. I've been thinking about ChatGPT and AI in general so much. And I've been talking a lot with my business bestie, Edwina, about this. We launched a course a while ago called AI for Yoga Teachers, in which we extensively created content to help you use AI in your business. And there are two prongs to that. One is using it to help you with strategy and ideas and sort of like business planning, which I use AI for all the time, and I find it incredibly useful. And the other one was around using it to write words for you. And I have to say, both Edwina and I, but I'll speak for myself, are really moving away from using AI to write content. I think we all got very excited when it first came out, and we were like, oh my goodness, this incredible time-saving, technology that writes emails for us. It's amazing. And more when I go online, when I read people's newsletters, we all sound the same. It's like the scroll is never ending, the content is never ending, and AI is so generic, it's so vanilla. It uses the same words, the same examples, the same style of writing, these short little sound bites that assume that none of us have the intelligence or the focus to read a proper long sentence. And so I really want to invite you to use AI less in your writing. Feel free to make mistakes, have spelling mistakes, have grammar errors, sound like English is your second language. I think we would all love that. And as well as thinking about speaking more to your clients, let's think about how we can write and express ourselves in a way that feels authentic and real, and not the robotic, polished, vanilla flavor of AI.